Say Oakland.
Saints fans and who that's from all over the world. This is Kyle T. Mosley here with the Saints News Network, and I'm here to bring the Bayou Blitz. And I have the host of the most, Mr. Bob Rose. What's happening, Rob?
Not a lot, Kyle. I hope you and your family are doing well. Everybody tuning in tonight to our special Friday night broadcast. I hope you and your families are doing well also.
Yeah. Special Friday night. Or is it Friday night special? That's how we do it, right?
Yep. Friday Night Lights.
Friday Night Lights. Man, this is usually the time where high school football is taking off and having some good times out there. Hopefully that some of the high school teams in Louisiana as well as around the country are able to resume pretty soon. Some of the cases of COVID has been kind of maintaining. So we shall see what's going to happen there. But, guys, the Saints are going to take on the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, it's taking some use to get to see, hear that, right? Las Vegas Raiders, for so many years it was Oakland Raiders, then Los Angeles, then back to Oakland. But the Saints are going to go and handle some business on Monday Night Football. But in the meantime, we're going to recap what happened on Sunday when Tom Brady, the six-time Super Bowl champion, visited the Superdome, and the Saints defeated the Buccaneers 34-23. I think somebody on this program was very, very close to that number. 34-24 is what I had, right, Bob? Now, if they just would have kicked that field goal, the extra point, I would have been on point. All right. So, Bob, tell everybody how you feel everything went with the game.
Well, anytime your Saints come out of a week with a victory is a good week for sure. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's just plain ugly. And, week one gave us a little bit of both. I'm really, really pleased with how well the Saints played defensively and on special teams on Sunday. And that's really what won the game. We were worried a little bit about the Saints defense and how they would deal with all the weapons, not to mention the six-time Super Bowl champion quarterback Tom Brady, as you mentioned, Kyle. But after a shaky opening drive by Tampa Bay, aided greatly by two questionable pass interference penalties on the Saints defense, I thought Dennis Allen and his crew really stuck to their game plan. They stayed aggressive when was necessary. They bottled up Tampa Bay's run game, with the exception of a couple breakaway runs by Buccaneers running backs, making the Buccaneers one-dimensional. When you're one-dimensional against the Saints, more often than not against this Dennis Allen defense, you're going to struggle because the Saints have the horses back in the secondary to lock down your top receivers, which Marshawn Lattimore and Janoris Jenkins certainly did do that, and they have the athletes and the disruptive presence in their front seven, to make a difference. And we saw the Saints pressure Brady a great deal as the game went along. They ended up with 3 sacks, but they forced an intentional grounding and a bunch of hurries during the game as well. So you have to love what the Saints did defensively. Special teams between the punts by Thomas Morstead, the returns by Deontay Harris, and the coverage teams. The Saints special teams unit is so vastly underrated, and probably the best special teams unit in the league. When you take it overall, so those were definitely the good points that I took away from this. What about you? What good spots did you take away from it?
Well, of course, what I saw in the Saints defense is how they adapted and were able to communicate well. You saw the veteran presence with those guys that they didn't really. They weren't anxious to be able to make plays. They let the plays come to them, especially how Jack Rabbit was communicating with Lattimore on the sidelines, telling him, hey, this is what's going to happen about those cutouts. They're going to eventually come to us because that's a Tom Brady-esque type of play. And it happened. and he jumped that route, man, and that was beautiful. That was a turning point in the game. And if you notice also, NFL highlighted that one play as a turning point with their program turning point as well. Okay. So, but it was a really a momentum change for the Saints because Tampa Bay got the ball. They were about to try to drive the length of the field. They didn't get that far, but it was 13-22 left in the half. The Saints jumped that route. We scored a touchdown. Momentum changes. Pressure is now on Tampa Bay. Now, what's going to happen with the Saints? The defensive front had the opportunity then to be able to make some changes where Granderson came in a little bit more. And you also saw where he was able to put some pressure on Brady. You saw how Sheldon Rankins affected Brady as well. So, and Big O, he did not record any stats, but he was disruptive. I like that fact as well. So as the defensive line goes, they played very well. That secondary played very well. Of course, no one better than Lattimore on Evans, right?
Oh yeah, and the Lattimore versus Evans is always a pay-per-view worthy matchup, and Lattimore once again kept the Pro Bowler Evans in his back pocket all game. Now we kept hearing leading up to the game that Mike Evans was going to be hobbled with a hamstring injury. You don't know how much of a factor that played in it, but certainly when you have a Pro Bowl caliber receiver on the field, you have to account for that. And Lattimore held him catchless. I believe that I saw a statistic put out by us actually on the SI team channel that Lattimore was matched up against Evans for 29 snaps during the course of the game, and Evans was held catchless and often not even targeted by Brady, which is a testament to how good a coverage Lattimore was providing. And we expect to see that all year. So Janoris Jenkins and those other defensive backs are really going to have to be up to the task. But that is why the addition of Janoris Jenkins late last season, and of course his offseason in the defense to get familiar with his teammates is going to be so key for this year. And we saw that play big dividends on Sunday.
Yeah. It was almost like a godsend what happened in New York for him to be released in the middle of the season. And right when Eli Apple gets injured in the Bears game, bam, bring on Jenkins. And he really hasn't given up that spot, in my opinion. And I like what he's able to do, the veteran presence, as well as he still has the speed. And he shut down Watson a few times. He shut down Godwin a few times as well. So now Godwin did have, 7 catches in the game. But
6 or 7 for 70-something yards. But a lot of that, if you go back and watch the film, a lot of that was when he was lined up in other people's coverage. My friend Patrick Robinson, was targeted pretty heavily, and Godwin had a couple plays against him. Godwin had a couple plays underneath against the Saints zone coverage when Jenkins neither Jenkins nor Lattimore was matched up man to man. But those two guys really. I gave them game balls, dual game balls in my post-game piece for a reason, and they certainly richly deserved it. Yeah,
good stuff. Look, the rookie, and Aaron, I got to be able to mention your comment there. Malcolm Roach, the rookie out of UT, the undrafted rookie gem that the New Orleans Saints found. And matter of fact, Malcolm Roach played most of the game, not Malcolm Brown. Malcolm Brown did not record a statistic in the game. Interesting. So I'm going to let you comment on that. But Malcolm Roach's agent, he texted me on Monday. He said, hey, how do you like how he played on yesterday? I was like, man, he played good. He was on point. So that's pretty interesting to see how the Saints brought in a young guy, undrafted, really should have been drafted based upon what he was able to produce at the University of Texas. So, and I know the Raiders are having some issues on their offensive line already. We'll talk a little bit about that ahead. But tell me, what's your thoughts about how Malcolm Roach played instead of Malcolm Brown?
Boy, oh boy. I mean, you and I were both a big fan of Malcolm Roach coming out of college, and we were thrilled when the Saints inked him to an undrafted contract. Having said that, I don't think either one of us expected him to make the roster, only because no disrespect to his talent, just that the Saints were that deep at defensive tackle. So he certainly surprised me by making the roster. And then when the game day inactives were announced for Tampa Bay, it was even a bigger shocker to me that Roach was active and Shy Tuttle, who I'm a huge fan of, was not. And then, Roach went on to play, not only the bulk of the snaps over Malcolm Brown, and we know what Malcolm Brown can do. We saw it in this defense last year, but Roach played so well. He got nice push on the interior to collapse that pocket around Brady. He made a couple nice plays in the run game, and he showed good athleticism, as well as Onyemata and Rankins, by the way, to disengage from their blockers and get to the edge to keep those Tampa Bay running backs from turning the corner. Roach, this is the third straight year now that the Saints look like they have found gold on the defensive line as with an undrafted player. A couple years ago, Taylor Stallworth. Last year it was Granderson and Tuttle, and now potentially Malcolm Roach. But Roach got his NFL career off to one whale of a start, and he played a heck of a game, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, young man played a really, really fine game. I was very pleased for what I saw. In going ahead, man, you pair him with like Shy Tuttle. You have David O. We don't know what's going to really happen with Sheldon Rankins, right? Sheldon Rankins did modify his contract right before the game on Saturday to be able to allot for that huge contract that Alvin Kamara signed. Speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about that contract as well as the Mario Davis's contract. Those are two guys that you wrote about early on in the summer needed to have contract extensions. What happened? Give us some lowdowns and some details there.
Well, first of all, again, credit to Mickey Loomis and his entire front office staff for getting these deals done. Alvin Kamara and Demario Davis have both been so crucial to what the Saints have been able to accomplish on the field in the last couple of seasons. And now it appears as if they're going to be New Orleans Saints for at least the next handful of seasons. Kamara's deal came first, or at least was announced first. As you just mentioned, Kyle, a mammoth 5-year deal, with yearly totals ballooning each season. There's no reason for us or you guys Saints fans to get too excited about what those what that yearly total looks like in year 4 or year 5 of Alvin's deal, because I'm sure it'll be reworked. But it is actually cap friendly for next year. I believe Alvin Kamara's cap hit for 2021 is only going to be about $5.5 million. Which, if you consider Kamara's status as one of the NFL's top backs, that's a relative bargain as far as salary cap numbers go. Right. Kamara's guaranteed money, I believe, came in at 34 or 35 million, which was a little bit lower than what I anticipated. But still, congratulations to that young man. He richly deserves it, and I'm so happy he's going to be continue to be a New Orleans Saint, because he has done so much for that New Orleans offense, and he is just such a pleasure to watch on the football field. Then go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I was just thinking, when you think about Kamara, man, it really takes a lot of pressure off the Saints going forward. for probably, let's say, 3 years at least, right? Because number one, you have a dynamic running back who's so versatile in not only the rushing game, but as well as the passing game. Also, he brings other dynamics to put pressure on defenses, right? So Kamara is just he's one of those, I wouldn't say, superstars that you find like a Barry Sanders or someone to that nature. I think he's really making a mark of his own at this time. So if he can stay healthy and maintain his health, availability is the only ability that Sean Payton really loves, right? So let's see how he goes forward. But talk about Demario Davis, man, being able to have him to come back and be able to lead this defense. What do you make of that contract and how quietly the New Orleans Saints signed that contract with him?
I had to laugh that the deal was going on quietly. Everybody was so focused on the Kamara deal, and as well as they should have been. Meanwhile, Loomis and that front office staff were just hammering away at their superstar on the other end of the ball, in Demario Davis. And Demario, he goes about his job somewhat quietly, although he really hit his stride and finally received his deserved recognition last year with an All-Pro berth. Demario's now under contract for the next 3 seasons. And if you look at his contract totals, which I don't have in front of me at the moment, but I know for a fact that they are significantly smaller. The dollars are significantly smaller than a lot of his less accomplished contemporaries signed in this past offseason. So in other words, Davis had the opportunity to cash in big time if he hit the free agent market, or even if he allowed New Orleans to play a bidding war with some teams if he became a free agent after the year. And it's just a testament to Demario's personality, how strongly he feels about the culture, both on the field with the Saints and off the field in the New Orleans community. And like you said, we wrote about it this offseason. I contended that if I were the general manager, I'd concentrate on a deal for Davis before I even would Kamara, and I would have stuck by those guns. But thankfully, the team managed to get the trigger pulled on both. 2 big boxes to check off the to-do list already before the 2021 offseason even comes around.
Yeah, definitely. So Demario Davis's contract, Bob, was a $24 million contract extension for 3 years and averages, of course, $8 million per year. Only guaranteed $9.3 million of that, so yeah. So it's really, again, I believe that's a cap-friendly type of deal, right? Demario spoke about this with us in the media, that one of the major reasons, like you said, is that he loves the city. He loves what he's doing here. He loves the culture of the program in New Orleans. So, you put all of that together, man, it just made 2 great deals for the New Orleans Saints last weekend to be able to get done, So let's go over one of the comments. Aaron Davis says he gives his game ball to T-Rex. Yes, Trey Hendrickson. Nobody gives him credit. Yeah, you're right about that. I really thought Trey Hendrickson really showed up and showed out.
Yeah, he sure did. And he received a game ball in my post-game piece as well. He had 3 or 4 key pressures of Tom Brady, including one that doesn't show up in the stat sheet, but it forced Brady into an intentional grounding penalty, which ended a drive, I believe. Trey Hendrickson made 3 different plays that ended New England Patriots drives, and it seemed like he made a living in that Tampa Bay backfield. Listen, we knew that Cam Jordan was going to bring the pressure from his defensive end spot, and Cam didn't fail to disappoint there. He sure did. We were a little bit concerned if the Saints would be able to generate pressure opposite of Jordan with the announcement that pregame announcement that Marcus Marcus Davenport wasn't going to play. But not only did Hendrickson answer the bell, but so did Carl Granderson, as you mentioned a little bit earlier in the show, Kyle. Hendrickson and Granderson, they might not be Pro Bowl caliber players yet. They're still both young players and could develop. But Hendrickson provided a key difference in that game. When you have any quarterback, you give him the opportunity to sit back and look for targets like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rob Gronkowski, O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate. You give him the opportunity to pick you apart. I don't care how well your secondary plays, and the Saints secondary certainly played lights out. But the pressure generated by Jordan inside with Rankins, Onyemata, and on the other edge with Granderson and especially Trey Hendrickson, they were as much as of a difference in that ball game as anything, because Brady did not have time to let those receivers work through their routes, or Brady to even go through multiple progressions. Tom Brady was on the move constantly, under pressure constantly. He went down, I think, 3 times, plus the 4th with that intentional grounding. But I think the Saints registered 9 or 10 quarterback hits or official pressures on him. And that's a key to today's NFL.
Yeah, especially when you're 42 years old, you don't want to get touched. You don't want to get touched. And Brady started to feel uncomfortable in that entire second half. I really can point back starting midway in the second quarter as well, So Brady started to get a little antsy. He didn't like what he was seeing. Those guys were surrounding him. They were getting closer and closer and closer, and they finally were starting to get to him that second half. And look, guys, when a guy gets sacked, you got to feel it, especially coming full force at you. It's kind of like having a wrecking ball hitting you several times, and you got to stand in the pocket. No, he didn't like that. So Brady was sacked, dropping 7 into coverage. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so let's talk about this, man. And it's been knowing at me and knowing at a few of us on the Sports Illustrated Saints News Network site about the negative comments on Marcus Davenport. Okay. A lot of people believe that we should trade Marcus Davenport. He's trash. He's no good. Bob, let's bring some sense and sensibility to this. What are your thoughts about Marcus Davenport?
I love Marcus Davenport as a player. And when he's on the field, you really need to pay attention to what he's capable of doing, because he flashes not just star, but superstar potential. He is a handful for even double team blocking to contend with. And there aren't many offensive tackles in the NFL that can handle Davenport one-on-one. He's a freakish athlete with excellent strength at the point of attack. Now, those are the good points. The bad points is I get the frustration that a lot of Houdat Nation has with Marcus Davenport right now. He's had foot issues in each of his first 2 years, leaving him unavailable for key parts of the season, including the playoff stretch last year. That can't continue. It just can't. Not when the Saints invested so much to move up in the 2018 draft to get him. You see why, with the abilities and playmaking skills that he flashes, you see why they fell in love with him. But this defense needs Davenport on the field more so than off. I'm not ready to ship him off or pack his bags or anything yet after missing game 1. And we certainly hope that his elbow injury isn't a long-term issue. But he has to show me that he can stay on the field. Do I think he's on the trading block? Absolutely not. As our friend Mike Detillier always loves to point out, and correctly so, you cannot have enough guys to put the opposing quarterback on his back. And, that's what the Saints recognized when they drafted Davenport in the first place. And even though this defensive line does have depth, and we just got done talking about how good Trey Hendrickson and Carl Granderson are and were on Sunday, they aren't Marcus Davenport. Davenport's a Pro Bowl quality player. And if you have him with the kind of depth that Hendrickson and Granderson can provide, if those guys up front get nicked up a little bit, then that's great. But you're a better team with Marcus Davenport on the football field than off.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to say this as well. Davenport, you compare his numbers to Clowney's numbers. Clowney had, I think he played all games last season. Clowney had 3 sacks, Davenport 6 sacks. And Davenport left during the San Francisco game, week 13? Yep. So Davenport was on his way to having probably a 9. He could have pushed to a 10 sack season last year, right? Double digits is always good when you are a pass rusher. I get the frustration about he had the toe injury, rookie year. He had the ankle injury or leg injury last year, and now this elbow injury, right? And the elbow injury must have occurred somewhere within training camp. I'm concerned because, one, Sean Payton made a huge play for Clowney.
Yeah.
There was a reason why he made that play. There was a reason why he thought Clowney should come in. And if that's the case, then something must really be severely wrong with this injury. That's all I'm saying. I could be wrong, and I want to be wrong. And if Who Dat Nation, if you guys think the same or may have that feeling as well, let me know. I'm always open to correction. But Bob, something just ain't right.
I hope you're wrong too. And Davenport is again on the injury report this week. We won't know his game status probably until the weekend.
He's out. I'm telling you, he didn't practice all week. He's out. I know tomorrow is the cutoff day, but he's out. I pretty much see that.
Well, and like you said, if this continues, and we both agreed, if this continues, it could become a serious issue. For the Saints as a team, I mean, because again, like I said, you can't deny Marcus Davenport's disruptive potential when he's on the field, but he has to be on the field to disrupt the other team. Otherwise, you are asking a lot for Trey Hendrickson and Carl Granderson to put up these kind of performances week after week. Do I think that they could potentially do so? I do. But again, Marcus Davenport was your number 1 draft choice. Not Trey Hendrickson, not Carl Granderson, which means Marcus Davenport was recognized as having the ability. The Saints gave up 3 draft choices to move up and get him. That's a heck of an investment for anybody, let alone somebody that isn't going to produce for you because they're standing on the sideline.
Yeah. Look, I pray that I'm wrong as well. We really do need to have him in order for us to be able to make the push for a Super Bowl. Bottom line, I'm not concerning myself with playoffs for this team, because this team, if I see how they perform on Monday Night Football on the road, going to meet John Gruden and a really upstart Raiders team, because they all surprise people. A lot of people had Carolina winning in Carolina against the Raiders on Sunday, but the Raiders really disrupted Carolina's front. The Raiders really did a great job on the rushing side, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but they really have people looking at them a lot differently as a result. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about the Raiders. We talked about the injury with Marcus Davenport, but we have some good news. Cesar Ruiz, the first-round draft choice, he is back. He had a full participation in practice today. He did limited participation yesterday, so he is back. PJ Williams, your friend and buddy, he is back as well, Bob. So looks like the only person who is really out is Davenport. Chase Hansen, the linebacker, who's also good in special teams. He had a little hip issue going on today, but he had limited practice as well. The Raiders, we got to talk about what's happening with Henry Ruggs, the speedster from Alabama, who Sean Payton coveted in this draft. I want to let you guys know that Sean Payton really loved Ruggs there. And I think if he was available, we would have been seeing him and not Ruiz. Ruggs is injured. He came down kind of lame after a tackle against the Carolina Panthers. He's been on the injury report all week long thus far. He did not participate in practice yesterday as well as today. We'll see on tomorrow. If he cannot go on tomorrow, does that bode good news for the Saints?
It sure could, because Ruggs has that kind of rare deep speed that very, very few defensive backs can match up with. And I will be talking a little bit about that in my key matchups piece for the game that we'll release on the Saints News Network tomorrow. But Ruggs coming down with the knee injury. Listen, the Raiders made an offseason focus out of adding wide receiver weapons for quarterback David Carr. Grabbing Ruggs with the 12th overall selection in the first round was just one of those moves. They also brought in Nelson Aguilar, a veteran receiver from the Eagles this offseason, and then added another draft pick in third round, a big-bodied pick in the third round in Brian Edwards from South Carolina. Now, Edwards, Ruggs, and Aguilar all made their presence felt by making a couple key plays against Carolina, all three of them. But again, Ruggs just gives an offense that dimension, that extra game-breaking dimension where you can literally score from anywhere on the field, regardless of the kind of coverage that you're facing. He is the very definition of take the top off of a defense.
Right.
Now, that's not something that the Saints saw in Tampa Bay last week. For as many receiving weapons as they have, Tom Brady can't go down the field like he used to. Derek Carr's got a gun for an arm, and he'll go deep on you. B, as good as Godwin, Evans, and those tight ends are for Tampa Bay, they aren't your stereotypical deep threats. Ruggs is. The rest of the Raiders receiving weapons, and I didn't even mention Hunter Renfrow or the tight end Darren Waller. They are all formidable foes for a secondary. But they aren't going to scare a cornerback or a defensive coordinator, keeping them up at night wondering how the heck are we going to keep them from going deep. Ruggs is just that kind of player. So if he can't go or he's limited, I'm not going to say that handcuffs the Raiders offense, but that definitely gives the advantage to the Saints secondary. They can confidently play a little bit more aggressive, similar to the type of coverage that we saw them employ last week.
Right. And I'm glad you said that, because that's what I was thinking as well. I think it's going to be a similar type of matchup, right? You look at the aging Gronk and you got the aging Jason Witten as well, right? Matter of fact, Witten is also on that injury report as well. So I think when you look at what's going to possibly happen with this game coming up, you have a lot of young talent that's really eager to be able to prove themselves for the Raiders. And you have a veteran presence and depth on the Saints side that can be able to handle and withstand a storm. So as last week, we saw the Buccaneers come out, really they scored first, which I predicted that would happen. And the Saints had to respond. The Saints are usually great making the second half adjustments. Dennis Allen, I don't know what he and his coaching staff what those guys do defensively, but they can make the best second half adjustments better than any squad I've seen in the past couple of years. And I like what we saw there. Now, on the flip side, Sean Payton had to admit for himself finally that he did not call a good game. He really trashed his own game. Bob, I was so surprised, but it was necessary for him to be perturbed, right?
Yeah, and Coach was absolutely right. We've spent the first 35 minutes of this show talking about the Saints defense and special teams, and they deserve all the accolades and then some that we could throw out. We mentioned very little about the Saints offense so far, and there was a reason for that. I thought that New Orleans offensively, a lot of sloppy play, sloppy execution, and poor play calling. Drew Brees alluded to it. He criticized his own play, and then like you just pointed out, Kyle, Coach Payton stepped right up to the podium and threw himself on the sword too, and he deserved to. I questioned the play calling, really from the get-go. We thought that New Orleans would have the advantage even on the offensive side of the ball because they had so much experience returning, and we didn't see evidence of that. And there was a couple reasons why. Again, let's not panic here. It's game one. Drew Brees is still Drew Brees. All that other, Kamara, Jared Cook, who I did think played a very good game. They still have as much talent on the offensive side of the ball as anybody. There's a few things that they have to clean up, and I'm confident that they will. And anybody that's legitimately concerned about Sean Payton's play calling going forward, don't be, because this is one of the best play callers in the National Football League, one of the best play callers in NFL history. I will give Coach a pass for an off day. Let's just hope that that's all it is. I expect the Saints to be much, much sharper offensively coming up against a Raiders squad who, especially against the pass, has struggled over the last few years. And I expect Payton to come out aggressively. There's one thing that concerns me, though. The interior offensive line, again, did not play well. Ryan Ramczyk and Teron Armstead, they completely shut down Shaq Barrett and JPP on the edges. Again, JPP had the only sack of Breeze for the Buccaneers, but that was on an inside rush where he beat Andrus Peat. Pete, McCoy, and Nick Easton, none of them played well. They shored up their pass protection a little bit in the second half, but they still could not get any footing in the ground game. And that's where the Saints are going to need to be successful against pretty much every defense. Tampa Bay has a formidable front seven, but we always talk about the Saints have one of the best offensive lines in pro football. They need to show it.
Timeout. Timeout. Let's go back. Bob, you said a whole lot.
I did.
And guys, if y'all didn't hear it, I'm let you guys know. The offensive line, which has been always a stalwart and a strong point of the New Orleans Saints, did not play well. Did not play well at all. And, okay, yeah. First game of the season. I give them that. But Andrus Peat reached. I recall 3 times he was reaching for a defender and not moving his feet.
Yep.
I remember one time he whiffed so poorly on the guy. He went to block like this, guys, and the guy just ran around him without even being touched. How much did we pay? 57?
I think so, yeah.
$57 million. I was so disappointed in Andrus Peat's play, man. And I know he was injured. I know he was nicked up at the beginning of training camp, but that was concerning. Now, Nick Easton did as well as I thought Nick Easton would do.
Uh-huh.
Okay? But you saw where they needed to probably have Ruiz in the game. Okay. We'll see how everything translates moving forward, but the Raiders' defensive line is okay, but they did put some pressure on Teddy, man.
Yep.
They put some pressure on Teddy. And I just don't understand why Pete played as poorly as he did. That's all I'm saying. You're not a rookie. You're not a second year guy. You're not a third year guy. You're not a fourth year guy. Not a fifth year guy. 6 years. Right? Am I wrong to be disturbed or perturbed?
No, Kyle, you're not wrong at all. And listen, neither one of us are in the Andrus Pete hater club many of who that nation is. In fact, both of us have gone out of our way to defend him numerous times.
Right.
You can't defend his play on Sunday. And his previous appearance on the football field when a game that counted before that was the Minnesota game, which he also played poorly. Same things that you just pointed out. He's not moving his feet. He's not reacting well.
Lighter though, Bob. That's what's concerned. He's 15 pounds lighter, and he still is moving like he has those old tree trunks that he came into the league with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not trying to, again, I'm trying to be non-biased about this, but I'm being objective as well when I say, what do the Saints do moving forward?
You got to go. Pete's got to be your guy unless he completely flames out. I mean, you signed him to that big contract extension. Basically, you chose Andrus Pete over Larry Warford moving forward. We both felt that the Saints would address the interior line position in the draft. We thought that it would be day 2. They instead went day 1 with Ruiz. And Ruiz is going to be a starter when he's healthy. There's no question about that. But like I said, you basically chose Andrus Pete over Larry Warford and any other free agent options that were out there. So you have to ride or die with him. I'm not ready to throw. Neither one of us, I think, are ready to throw in the towel on Pete yet. But he is undoubtedly the weak link of that offensive line. And I don't care if you have all pros in Teron Armstead and Ryan Ramczyk. A serviceable veteran in Nick Easton and a Pro Bowl caliber, exciting young draft pick in Ruiz and a Pro Bowl caliber center in McCoy. If you have one weak link on that offensive line, it's going to be like a hole in the dam. That water is still going to come rushing through.
Yeah. All right, we'll see how the Saints are able to shore up that offensive line. Let's talk about the game ahead, man. And I know a lot of people want to go ahead and talk about MT, Michael Thomas being injured and with the high ankle sprain. There is a strong possibility from sources that I've heard from that Michael Thomas is trying to make a go of it. We still have him. He hasn't practiced the past couple of days. If he doesn't practice on tomorrow, it's very doubtful that he will make a go of it. If he does practice tomorrow, then it becomes a game time decision should they allow him to be a scratch or not for that game. Okay, so we'll give you more information upon the Michael Thomas injury as we get the details that may come into the Saints News Network. Okay, let's talk about these Raiders, man. So I'm looking at some of the stat sheet here, Bob. The Raiders were able to do well on the Carolina Panthers. They put 133 yards on the ground. You have David Carr. He was able to be effective in the air. I think they had a net passing yardage of 260 yards in the air, but he also was sacked once in the game. He also had a completion passing rating of, let's see here, 73.3. No, I take that back. He was not sacked. He was not sacked. He was 22 of 30 for the game, 73% completion rate. Now, when you look at those numbers, you would say to yourself, Bob, isn't that Drew Brees-esque type of numbers?
A bit, yeah. And Derek Carr, his first couple years in the league, actually drew some comparisons to Drew Brees because of his accuracy. And I will say this: I'm a fan of Derek Carr. I always have been. When the Raiders have managed to protect him, he is a very proficient quarterback. Now, when he does get a little bit of pressure, Carr falls apart fast, and he will make some big time errors. Now the Raiders were able to protect him pretty well last year. In fact, he had Carr had his highest completion percentage of his career, 22 touchdowns, only 8 picks, I think, on the season. And we saw a lot of that again last week. The thing about the Raiders' offensive line is they're dinged up a little bit, both at guard and tackle spots. B, even when they are healthy, they are a big, imposing bunch. That likes to push straight ahead. And can dominate in the run game. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But as far as pass protection, they have struggled. Even though they protected Carr better, they have struggled against more athletic defensive linemen, which is, of course, a New Orleans strength. So I think it's going to be strength versus weakness in that aspect. With the Saints' defensive front seven, led by their defensive line, having the advantage on paper. The Saints have the capability to pressure Carr, which will obviously help in that matchup between the Saints secondary and the New Orleans wide receivers. But if Carr gets some time, he can and will pick you apart.
Yeah. He only had 1 touchdown, right? But the 239 yards that he put up in the air, the 22 completions, 73%, I was shocked. He left with 107 quarterback rating as a result, right? So Jacobs is what I would say is a real threat for the New Orleans Saints. The 3 touchdowns that Jacob was able to score in the game against Carolina was shocking when I look at the stat sheet, right? But I understand what John Gruden is trying to do. Mike Mayock and John Gruden have worked well together in putting together a team that is on the verge, I would say. When you have a game like this where you have 2 talented and very intense coaches on Monday Night Football wanting to prove, one, with the Saints, we are still great and we're still here and we're still relevant, right? Then you have a Raiders team, brand new city, brand new digs, brand new everything, and they want to prove to the world that they can be relevant. Okay. So who's going to be the keys to this matchup, Bob? What's going to be the keys to this matchup? Because, the Saints defense has done such a great job for such a long time with 44 games preventing a 100-yard rusher. Is that streak in jeopardy? Sure
it is. Yeah, absolutely it is. And I'm a huge fan of Josh Jacobs. He is on this close to being one of the better running backs in the NFL. He has good power between the tackles, the speed to get outside, and a great elusiveness and a lethal burst in the open field. Jacobs is what that Raiders offense revolves around. And even last week against Carolina, he was used sparingly as a receiver. Jacobs was last year, but he had 4 catches and was targeted, I think, 6 times against Carolina. That might be revealing a new facet of this Raiders offense. The Saints do have to shut him down, at least contain Jacobs. to force Derek Carr to beat you through the air, because then those pass rushers can tee off on Carr. And we just got done talking about, what happens to Carr if you pressure him a little bit. But Jacobs could affect this game and not get, even if the Saints hold him under 100 yards, even if Jacobs could establish an effective ground game that allows the Raiders to continue to be balanced and gives you the threat of a run. We saw it last year against the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs. Dalvin Cook is a wonderful runner, and the Saints held him on the stat sheet below 100 yards, but Cook still had a nice afternoon, and the Vikings offense was effective because of it. You could see that same kind of strategy employed with the Raiders. Again, Jacobs could beat you between the tackles, outside of the tackles, and now perhaps as a pass catcher in the open field. So that front seven, and especially the linebackers, Davis and Anzalone, they're going to have their hands full in containing Jacobs, and I believe that I know that they're capable of doing it, but it's going to be one of the keys to who wins this game.
Okay, so you talked about Anzalone as really the key, and then you have Ellis, young guy, right? And you have Demario Davis. So they allowed Zeke Bond to be inactive for last week's game, which was a shock to most of us, right? Mm-hmm. Do you see where a game like this, he could possibly be activated to try to help out in this area? Because the Raiders are going to be downhill for this game. I think they will be more effective trying to run and sticking with the run versus trying to pass, because I think the Saints secondary, especially if Ruggs is not going to be a part of the game, will be they would be kind of handicapped a little bit. Your thoughts?
Yeah, you're right. I think if Ruggs cannot play or is limited, the Saints secondary does have the athletic advantage. But we just saw a comment from one of our fans that Jacobs is a game changer. He is exactly that. Like you said a moment ago, Jacobs is going to be what the Raiders' offense revolves around. So yeah, they're going to have a downhill attack, and Carr is going to throw the ball for sure. But Jacobs has got to be effective for this. I almost said LA. That's reaching back a few years for this Raiders offense. To have any kind of success, it's going to be with Josh Jacobs, whether as a pass receiver, or with success in the rushing game. So Bond, I think, could be active, yeah. Because, but then again, you look, Caden Ellis, even though Ellis got the start last week, I think he only played 5 defensive snaps, because the Saints went heavy nickel the whole time.
The whole right. Right.
We could see the Saints successfully do that again, because what a good run defender Malcolm Jenkins is when you move him up in the box. So you can still put an extra defensive back or two on the field, Dennis Allen can, while effectively stopping the run game. Because Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, P.J. Williams, and definitely Malcolm Jenkins are all good run defenders inside the box. So if Bond,
great point. I'm saying that's a great point. That's a great point.
So if Bond plays, I don't know how many snaps we're going to see from him, unless it's in situational roles. Now, listen, Zeke Bond is a talent, and I think he is going to be a star in this Saints defense eventually. But right now, the usage of him is going to be very matchup oriented. We know this is a Saints defense that is so talented that they were able to deactivate talented players like Zeke Bond, missing P.J. Williams, and deactivate Marcus Davenport and Shai Tuttle on the front line, and still really dominate a Tampa Bay offense. So again, even if Zeke Bond is active against the Raiders, I don't see him seeing a whole lot of defensive snaps, knock on wood, barring injury.
Right, exactly. And PJ is coming back. So, yeah, I think utilizing him may be more what Dennis Allen has in mind, especially in those nickel situations. PJ can also be one of those small linebackers for the Saints, right? All right. So let's kind of flip the script, so to speak. Saints offense versus the Raiders defense. How do you see it?
A lot depends on Michael Thomas, and I'm only going to spend a minute on this, because you already addressed it on tonight's show, Kyle. But folks, Kyle and I had a long phone conversation about Michael Thomas earlier this afternoon. And listen, if Mike can go, he is the consummate competitor, and he will be out there. But if he does go, I think at the very least and my money's on that he sits out this game. But if Michael Thomas does go, he is going to be, I think, a little bit limited with that ankle injury. So instead of moving him all around the formation, I would expect that the Saints would just use him on one side, to try to get him to run patterns and his routes that don't put as little strain as possible on that ankle to re-aggravate it. In other words, not a decoy situation, but I wouldn't expect, and Michael Thomas plays, he's not going to be a primary offensive weapon for the Saints. And I can't believe those words are coming out of my mouth. We're going to see a heavy dose. Emmanuel Sanders, you mentioned it in an article earlier in the week. Emmanuel Sanders is probably going to elevate to the top target at wide receiver. We're going to see a heavy dose in the passing game of Jared Cook. And I think Alvin Kamara, who obviously has vital importance to the Saints' offensive attack, Kamara's importance this week is going to be more as a pass receiver than a running back. And a couple reasons for that. Number one, if Michael Thomas is out or hobbled, then Kamara becomes your most dynamic playmaking threat in the passing game. We've seen the Saints use Kamara down the stretch of last season and last week more in the screens and check down options than anything else. But we also know that Alvin can move around. He can split out wide. He can come at you from the slot. So I expect a heavy dose of that against the Raiders this Sunday, as well as moving him in motion out of the backfield, because the Raiders are dinged up in their linebacking core. In fact, they're probably going to be missing one of their starters.
Yeah,
so that's
Netkowski.
Yeah, bringing him over from the Bears, which was a big pickup, but he's also going to be a big absence if he can't go on Sunday. Kamara is going to be a tough matchup for that linebacking core of the Raiders anyway, even more so if they're thin. I expect to see Alvin Kamara have a huge receiving game on Sunday, as well as Jared Cook. And listen, we know Drew can spread the ball around. He's going to have to without his favorite target in the game now.
Yeah. I think here my X factors are key. The key players: Jared Cook. No, be honest, Jared Cook, and I believe you may have Taysom Hill really playing a huge key in this game as well, man. Offensively, I think Peyton made a mistake. I wouldn't say mistake. Let me use right words, because then he'll be saying, Kyle, why you said it. I think he should have utilized Taysom's running ability a little bit more in the game against the Bucs, because those linebackers were not being able to handle him. They knew what type of plays Alvin was running. Remember, that's why they were keen, kind of teeing off on Alvin. I think another X factor is Latavius Murray. The two ex-Raiders are going to be really good keys in this game. And you may want to look at Deontay Harris as a possibility as well, guys. Will the Saints be able to take a shot down the field with him? Will they allow Winston to come in and throw that bomb to him? That's one thing I would like to see as well. But those are my three keys to the game are X factor guys who can be able to really impact the game.
Yeah, and I think that that's a great call out on Latavius Murray too. Obviously, if they're going to utilize Kamara more as a receiver, then you have to use, by definition, you have to use Murray more as a runner. And the game plan last Sunday did call for that. So let's give Sean Payton credit for that part of the game plan. In that aspect, though, that's where the Saints' offensive line, interior guys especially, they did not execute. They were not able to clear out running room for either Kamara or Latavius Murray, and that's going to have to change on Sunday. The Raiders do have they have a talented but lightweight defensive line that can be worn down a little bit as the game goes along. Those edge pass rushers in Cleveland Farrell and Max Crosby are nothing to sleep on. But they get good push in the running game, the Raiders do, from their interior. Malik Collins, our old friend from Dallas, along with Maurice Hurst and Jonathan Hankins, they're big bodies in the middle. Andrews Pete, Eric McCoy, and Cesar Ruiz / Nick Easton, whoever takes that right guard spot, they're going to have to really establish the running attack early on. And if they are, then that will open up opportunities for Deontay Harris, et cetera, down the field. Right. We're hearing it after week one. Drew doesn't have the arm strength, and week one proves it. Now, week one didn't prove anything to us because of A, the game plan, and B, he was just under too much pressure up the middle. If the Saints can establish protection and keep that clean pocket, establish the running game, that's going to give Drew his shot. And Michael Thomas or no Michael Thomas, you hit a couple deep plays on this Raider secondary, which has some young playmakers, but has not come together yet. You hit a couple plays deep on them, that's going to open up your underneath routes for Kamara, Cook, Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah, I agree with you, Bob, and so does one of our listeners. They agree with you as well. I will say this much. I believe when the Saints, Sean Payton has to be patient.
Yeah.
The run can be more effective for the Saints this game if he's patient with going to Murray. You saw where Murray almost broke it a couple of times before getting tripped up. I really believe you got to lather up a guy like Murray. You got to give him those touches. You got to get that engine rolling. You saw what he did against Chicago Jaguars, and and when he can get rolling, he can really help us and affect the game and move the sticks. So let's see how that goes. Let's see. One listener says Saints will be fine. A limited bench Michael Thomas. The offense is stacked and usual in the Peyton era. All right, cool. All right, Bob, any last thoughts on the Raiders game for our listeners?
I mean, we covered offensive and defensive sides of the ball. Hopefully, folks, we didn't miss anything glaring. I would like to think that we hit on all points between our articles during the week and our show tonight. Remember too, and you touched on the Peyton versus Gruden factor. Both these guys are great offensive minds. Both these guys pride themselves on being great offensive minds. But Sean Payton has had a little bit bigger chip on his shoulder when he faces one of his former teams or one of his good friends. John Gruden is both. Your Gruden and Payton are extremely close. No secret about that. We heard Gruden allude to that many times when he was in the Monday Night Football broadcast booth. Payton's first job in the NFL was as the quarterbacks coach of the Philadelphia Eagles in 1997. The offensive coordinator on that team was a man by the name of John Gruden.
Yep.
These guys, and I know it's National Enquirer type of stuff, TMZ type of headlines, but it is true. Peyton has always had a little bit extra in his game plan when he goes up against his good friends. So I would expect a few some trickeration out of Coach Peyton, particularly early in the game, and that could help the Saints actually too, because that will loosen up your straight ahead running game that we want to see from Latavius Murray, and keep a young Raiders defense on their heels, especially a Raiders defense that still struggles against the pass. So expect a couple wrinkles from our coach this Monday night.
Yeah, you look, man. Monday night, prime time. These guys love it. Drew Brees as well as Sean Payton. Sean Payton is 16-7 in Monday Night Football events. He loves the spotlight. The Saints, Drew Brees, he loves it as well. Drew has set his most completions mark, most passing attempts mark, the best completion percentage mark, the most yards mark, most touchdown passes, best passer rating, 400 yards passing games and 300-yard passing games at 14 on Monday Night Football. So it's something about this primetime matchup that these guys like. I have to think I'm going with the Saints, of course, but some defensive guys that we have to look at. I think this is going to be one of those games where Cam Jordan is going to have a couple of sacks this game. And reason being, because I know Good is taking the spot at right tackle for the injury that occurred. Not saying anything negative about Good, like he's bad. I'm not saying Good is bad, but I'm just saying coming in, you talk about second stringer against Cam Jordan. I got to like Cam Jordan's chances there. And the X Factors, Jerry Poor says that he believes it's going to be Jackrabbit, Roach, Harris, Jordan, Davis, Kamara, and Sanders for him. One of our other listeners said Drew Brees is the GOAT. Who dat? Right? And after 6 p.m., the Saints are unbeatable. All right. And Gruden is not exactly unfamiliar with the Saints offense. True. Right. And let's see here. Saints will be fine limited. We already saw that as well. All right. So, guys, you guys had some great comments tonight. I really do appreciate you spending time with Bob and I. We're going to go into our predictions. Any last thoughts, Bob? That's it?
That's it.
That's it. All right. Bobo wants to go home and hug a pillow.
Nurse my back injury.
Personal bad. Well, we're not going to put you on IR yet. All right, guys. If y'all have any last question, put it in the comments. Go to our YouTube channel. Find us at Saints News Network. And go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channels. We had over 100 new subscribers over the last 2 weeks. So that is great news for us. Don't forget, go to si.com/NFL/Saints for the latest in New Orleans Saints news with John Hendricks, Bob Rose, Brendan Borland, Dr. Carla Antoine, and myself, Kyle Mosley. Bob, tell everybody how they can find you on the World Wide Web.
Well, Kyle, I think we forgot to give our predictions for the game, didn't we?
You're right.
How could we forget to do that?
Man, and because I guess I want to go hug a pillow too, man. But anyway, let's give us predictions. Bob, what's your prediction?
Well, first of all, thank you for everybody tuning in tonight. And you can find me individually on Facebook, Bob Rose, or Twitter at BobbyR2613. Obviously, all of my media work is through the Saints News Network and our good friend Kyle Mosley over here. And we also have our Bayou Blitz Facebook page and Facebook group. We streamline all of our works through there, as well as the New Orleans Saints group, Who Dat group, and who dat domination. 4 great Saints Facebook groups. So if you aren't members of all 4 of them, shame on you. If you are, thank you for all the hard work you're doing. You make our job so much easier and fun. So we certainly appreciate that. As far as my predictions for the game, I agree with you, Kyle. I think Cam Jordan and that in particular, and that defensive line is going to have a big game up front. Josh Jacobs is one heck of a running back to contain, and I do think he's going to make some plays. But I think that the Saints secondary continues their role as well, and they come up with a couple of key game-changing plays. Offensively, I believe Kamara is going to have a big game, as well as Jared Cook. The Saints will be able to establish a running game well enough to maintain balance, while Drew Brees, who has never, knock on wood, thrown an interception in his career against the Oakland/Los Angeles/Oakland/Las Vegas Raiders. He continues his role. Saints come out of this one with a 27-17 victory.
All right, 27-17. Let's see what our fans say. Jerry Poor says 45-17. Aaron Davis says 31-27. All right. I like those, guys. Good numbers. My prediction, I'm going to stay pat with it. I was a guest on Hondo Carpenter's show. He's a part of our Sports Illustrated Readers Maven website. And Hondo and I talked and chatted up a little bit. We debated. But bottom line, I'm going to stick with it. It's going to be 41-28 Saints. That 28 points, 14 of that is going to come in the fourth quarter for the Raiders in garbage time. So don't think I'm selling our team out. I'm thinking when it comes to that second quarter to halftime range, especially if the Saints get the ball after halftime, it's going to put a lot of pressure on those guys, on the black and silver. I think the Saints are going to, when they leave the stadium, Allegiant Stadium, which is a great stadium. It's, I call it the Death Star because a lot of people call it the Death Star, right? I think it's going to be black and gold by the time they leave. It's going to be black and gold, and all those Raider fans, they hated me for saying that, but it was black and gold. So we got another user say it's going to be 41-28. That's what I'm saying as well. Let's see here. We got 42-13, Ken Banks. All right. And we got 14 points on defense. Wow.
I can do that.
Now that would be huge if the Saints are able to go ahead and do that. I love this one. The Roomba Stadium. It kind of does resemble one of those robots, right? That I've got to use that one, man. The Roomba Stadium. We got the Origami Stadium for the Falcons, and we got the Roomba Stadium for these guys. So what's going to be the Rams Stadium? Because that thing that's shaped with the point, that kind of looks kind of strange in my opinion.
Man, I don't know. I haven't come. I watched that game between Dallas and the Rams on Sunday night, and I couldn't. Those new Rams colors, the shade of gold, it was too distracting. I couldn't concentrate on the game.
I don't care. I know our friend Jim Everett. He loves it.
Yeah.
I thought it was ugly. I think those uniforms are horrendous, especially is that white? Is it supposed to be white, or is it supposed to be like a shade of blue? What is it? Or is it gray? I can't tell.
I watched that whole game like this.
And you sure wasn't that scoreboard blinding you as well?
Right?
The Oculus. Man. All right. I was there last week. Had to photobomb. All right, cool. I mean, look, I don't know, man. That stadium is kind of Well, whatever. Okay, we got to give a shout out. Shout out to some of our Facebook friends that are not a part of the Bayou Blitz, but the New Orleans Saints group, the largest and oldest group in on Facebook, ran by Joel Smith. Man, Joel, thank you so much for allowing us to stream the Bayou Blitz as well as our game day shows like the pregame show with John Hendricks, as well as the halftime show with myself and Bob. Matter of fact, we got a treat for you. This halftime show, we're going to have Mike Detillier in the house. Mike is going to join Bob and I. So you guys stay tuned. We're going to have that for you right when halftime starts. So as immediate as halftime starts, go get your drinks, do whatever, hurry up, come back. We're going to have our 15 minutes right on the air. Also, Richie, thank you so much for the Who Dat Nation being a part of that group. Ronnie, let's see, Bonnie Cobb, thank you so much for the Who Dat Nation group. You have as well. A lot of these groups, Who Dat Nation, and we have D Star. Thank you so much for Who Dat Domination being a part of that group as well, guys.
We love you guys. We love you guys.
All of our content, great partners, and remember, if you're part of that group, we want to invite you guys. You guys can come on the air with us. Let me know if you want to say some words, chat it up with Bob and I. Say, hey, I want to be on the air. I'll let you in, send you an invite. You can come in and be able to say what you need to say. Only thing we say is keep it clean. Okay.
You can't be prettier than me either. That's a rule.
Yeah, you can't be prettier than Bob. That's right. Let's see. The Rams stadium looks like an ice cream cone.
Yeah.
Looks like something that dripped as well. We're going to call it the Drip Stadium. You're most welcome. All right. And looking forward to that. Yes. So we will have the game day pregame report, and hopefully you'll see it firsthand from John Hendricks inside of Allegiant Stadium, because he will be there reporting on the game for us firsthand. All right, Bobo. I am Kyle T. Mosley. You can find me at KT Mose on Twitter as well as Facebook. And you can find us at Saints News on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Saints News. Okay. And again, our website is si.com/NFL/Saints for the latest in New Orleans Saints news from John Hendricks, Bob Rose, Brenda Boylan, Dr. Cole Antoine, and myself, Kyle T. Mosley. And a shout out to our interns, Andrew, Joe, and Sam, as well as my son, Kyle. He's done some great videos for us, too. Those interns have really done well. Good night to everybody. But most of all, let's have a great Monday night football game against the Las Vegas Raiders. Y'all take care. Who dat? And stay safe this weekend. Take care. Bye.